burn rate is a vital sign we think is critically important because two reasons. First of all, we hate spending money and we feel guilty spending it. So if I can tell you that your burn rate is healthy, you can feel less guilty about spending the money that you're spending. And I think there's so much anxiety when it comes to finances.
Everybody wants to spend less.
Everybody wants to spend less. Everybody feels guilty for spending. We have tons of anxiety and kind of financial fear, hesitation. There's a lot of heaviness that comes into play when we're dealing with our finances. So if I knew that my burn rate was healthy, it doesn't matter if I'm spending it, if I'm spending $30 on a movie ticket Friday night, or I'm spending, $30 on a new pair of shoes next week, burn rate's burn rate.
Yeah. If your burn rate percentage is
once my burn rate is healthy and inside of a healthy space, I don't have to feel guilty anymore about spending. I should not.
How nice would that make you feel? Just that weight lifted off your shoulder.
I'm already like, I just kind of feel, I feel like I'm breathing a little easier just even saying it. We're recording. Episode 4.
Episode number 4.
All right. We are excited to jump in, and we appreciate your guys' time today. So hopefully you guys learn a little bit about the topic of the day.
Yeah, we finally get to talk about something we're introducing to our people.
Yeah, and we're going to kind of dive straight into what cash flows are and specifically what is burn rate. I just want to start too by saying that when we start talking about this burn rate thing, like it is uniquely individualized. Like burn rate is what's healthy for me may not be healthy for you.
It's something you really can't compare.
It's really difficult. So just make sure as you're listening to this, if you're in our financial health planning program, don't necessarily just say, hey, my number isn't where Brandon said someone else's was, because it's just so unique. And we're going to get into what healthy looks like, but it may not be reality for you right now. So just understand that as we talk through this, we're talking to a lot of people all at one time. So we'll give some broad brush strokes here. But on our monthly Zoom calls, where we'll be able to dive in specifically with those people that are enrolled in our health program, those are the times where we'll be able to kind of individualize that conversation.
That's when we'll be able to get into more depth.
Specific feedback. So with that, spending, burn rate, all that good stuff. Josh, tell me a time that you've spent some money you shouldn't have.
Money I shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Well, I think the most recent purchase would be a commercial zero turn to cut, 3-4 acre yard. I definitely could have done it with just a riding tractor lawnmower that probably cost, $3,000-$4,000 less.
But it wasn't a zero turn.
But it wasn't a zero turn,
yeah.
And it doesn't go as fast and have all the options. And yeah, I probably could have got by with a much cheaper tractor.
Yeah, I think. For me, it was definitely, I think maybe an overpurchase or an overspend was the truck upgrade.
Yep.
Putting the tent and the refrigerator and building all that out to get my overlanding equipment set up. But it's important to me because now I can create some memories, right? So like I understood, like I had some cash. I understood that my savings was already where it was supposed to be. I understood my tax picture. I understood my income.
But you still had that guilt.
But there was still guilt because, I definitely don't communicate often how much I spent on that. And even when I do tell people, sometimes I round down.
Right. Because you just feel bad.
There was a couple. I think there's tons of guilt surrounded by spending money. And it's kind of, so we you know, we talked about, like, I know why I spent the money I did.
Right.
I want to have something that is a getaway for me where I can drive off into the woods, spend a weekend next to a campfire.
Right.
You know, I can do it anytime. The tent is on the truck, ready to go.
Yep.
My refrigerator is stocked, ready to go.
Yep. And it's like with my lawnmower purchase. Yeah, I could have went a lot cheaper, but by getting that zero turn, it's saving me an hour and a half, 2 hours of cutting grass.
Time,
So it's
opportunity, memories, all these
That's
things.
what justified
And
it
we're
in my
justifying
head.
it.
Even though my
Sure.
wife didn't quite like it.
Yeah.
Because that extra money could have went to something that she wanted. But that saves me an hour or 2 hours of time. So that was what justified in my head.
But yeah, there's guilt.
Other
around
people might not
spending.
have thought that. Right.
And people are always spending more than they want to. Every conversation, there's conversation. I have clients, we have clients that are absolutely saving a tremendous amount of money. They're financially healthy, and they still, when we talk about spending, hey, you know, let's update some numbers. What are you spending? What's your spending rate? What's your burn rate? You know, this past month or past couple months. Oh, Brandon, I'm not asking you in order for you to feel bad.
Right.
It's just a calculation.
Yeah.
It's just another number. Your savings rate, your tax rate, your debt payments, and then your burn rate all factor in to this one unique number called cash flows, right? So we're simplifying that. And some people are already like, whoa, cash flows? What are cash flows? It's your gross income. When you get your paycheck, most people are set up on like a W-2 income. So
Right.
by
Every
the
2 weeks
time
you
they
get a check.
get their paycheck, it's already paid their taxes, right? They're going to wait until the end of the year and they'll get a little bit more back from the IRS, right? So most of the time, your paycheck is not your gross income, it's your after-tax income. Some people are also participating in employee savings plans like a 401k. So it might even be net of some of your savings rate. But once you get this net cash, the question is where does that money go? So I can add it to my net worth by saving it. I can also pay down debt. Like if, for example, if I have a home, I can pay my mortgage payment. It decreases the amount of mortgage I have, gives me more equity in my home. Therefore, it increases
Your net worth.
my net worth. So in that sense, once I get my money can go to increase my net worth through savings or debt payments, or it can go out into the ether through spending. And that's typically what we call living expenses, lifestyle expenses. So this might be something as simple as paying a utility bill or paying a cell phone payment. It could be paying, gas right now, pretty high. So it can be like these are living expenses that are not doing anything by way of increasing our net worth. Right. And and some people are like, I know there's people thinking, well, like, what about if I buy a painting? Okay, well, you're getting an asset. So that could still increase your net worth, especially if it's some like rare painting by a famous artist that's going to grow over time. So there's a lot of different kinds of ways we can invest money. But I think the notion is if I'm not putting it into my net worth somehow, it's getting spent on lifestyle. And lifestyle spend is kind of the same thing, whether it's, again, paying that utility bill or paying for a movie ticket Friday night, right? So now we understand, hopefully at this point, we've walked into the fact that we are going to be talking about burn rate. Now,
and what is
burn rate is essentially spending that isn't going to grow my net worth. But in that, like, burn rate in and of itself, we measure as one of our financial vital signs. Okay. So we have these 12 financial vital signs. And again, if you're part of Harpeth Wealth by way of being an individual client, or if you're part of the Harpeth Wealth financial health program, you understand and you see on the app how you guys are monitoring these numbers. And if you haven't seen that yet, then we just need to talk. And if you're not enrolled in that, if you're not a client and you're not enrolled in that health monitoring program, it's health, the vital signs, getting your vital signs checked. It's a really cool ecosystem. We'd love to invite you. We can talk about that anytime you want. Just reach out to us. But burn rate is a vital sign we think is critically important because two reasons. First of all, we hate spending money and we feel guilty spending it. So if I can tell you that your burn rate is healthy, you can feel less guilty about spending the money that you're spending. And I think there's so much anxiety when it comes to finances.
Everybody wants to spend less.
Everybody wants to spend less. Everybody feels guilty for spending. We have tons of anxiety and kind of financial fear, hesitation. There's a lot of heaviness that comes into play when we're dealing with our finances. So if I knew that my burn rate was healthy, it doesn't matter if I'm spending it, if I'm spending $30 on a movie ticket Friday night, or I'm spending, $30 on a new pair of shoes next week. Burn rate's burn rate.
Yeah. If your burn rate percentage is
once my burn rate is healthy and inside of a healthy space, I don't have to feel guilty anymore about spending. I should not.
How nice would that make you feel? Just that weight lifted off your shoulder.
I'm already I just kind of feel, I feel like I'm breathing a little easier just even saying it. And so I think, but what the problem is, people have no idea.
They don't know what it is.
I mean, without
how to calculate
without my app, without our app, I don't even know if I would clearly have guessed what my burn rate is. I would have had kind of a roundabout area, but I didn't think about some of the elements that we're thinking about when it comes to factoring in your burn rate.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. If somebody was enrolled in our program, they do have the app on their phone, they can see the box BR on the app. What would be a good number? And how, if they're with us, how do we tell them, hey, this is a good number where you should be? Or are there a lot of factors that go in that could change?
Yeah, that's a really
what a good number would be.
That's a hard question to answer because I don't think there's just one. I think the takeaway of understanding your burn rate is just that. It's understanding your burn rate. It's one of those things where healthy is there's so many factors that come into play. I'll give you a few examples. So let's just talk about the individual. And I mean, I've met a couple people that they're making like $36K and they got, a single spouse or single person, $36,000 a year income, and they got a kid at home. Their burn rate is probably 100%, right? Once you get that standard deduction and you take the deduction of the dependent, they're probably paying $0 in taxes.
Yep.
So all of their money is coming to them, and all of it, if they're only making $36,000 a year, that if they spend 100% of it, I think I want to say it's really close to $3,000 a month.
Right.
Is that necessary amount to not be in poverty? So they're literally just spending enough to not be considered. I mean, that's still, if you live in anywhere in the Nashville area,
rent, child care, health care, insurances. I mean,
good luck not feeling like you're in poverty if you're only making $36K a year. That's really hard. So their burn rate is going to be 100% because they have no taxes to factor in, right? I'm assuming at that point you probably don't have debt terms to factor in because you probably can't get financed for a house. You're probably renting. So their burn rate might be 100%, and that might just have to be what it is for them for the time being until they can start getting their income up. Right. And that brings in a whole nother point is, what if I go from making $36K to $40K a year? I went from $36,000 to $40,000 a year.
Now you're factoring in taxes.
You might have to pay taxes now. So if all of a sudden I have to start paying tax, I got a $4,000 raise,
paying 10% taxes now.
Let's say it's 5%. These are all hypothetical. We don't know your tax brackets, and we're talking to people across many states, so this is super hypothetical.
Right.
But let's just assume that by going from $36,000 income a year to $40,000, I'm now introduced to having to pay taxes at, we'll call it 5%. Well, now all of a sudden I'm forced my burn rate can't be over 95%
because you're still only bringing home 36,000.
because I'm effectively still bringing home $36,000. So I have to. My burn rate my burn rate went down as a percentage, but my spending stayed exactly the same because guess what?
So going back to that, talking about the spending and the taxes, they're the 4 categories. I think we missed that part.
So cash flows is basically we're looking at your gross income, and then there's we do talk about it. So there's 4 places that it can go. It can go to pay your taxes. It can go to pay down debt. It can be saved, or it can go to your living expenses or your total spend. Your total spend, the difference between living expenses and total spend, and this is really in the details. We get into this in our monthly calls, but total spend would be the amount going to debt and living expenses. Living expenses is not factoring in the debt payments because I'm building my net worth by paying these debts.
But in the previous example, burn rate's still 100%. We're just breaking it up now because something's getting added into it. When taxes, now you're paying 10% in taxes.
No, my burn rate's less because I'm making 40 and I'm only spending 36. It's now that 4,000, the hypothetical 4,000 is going to taxes. So now of 40,000 of income, that 10% is tax rate. 90% is burn rate. So I'm spending the same, but my burn rate decreased, and I still don't have any savings money. Right. So that's still really tough. But let's go past that and look at another example here of someone making, let's say a couple, right, and their total household income is $50,000 a year. Okay. So this still isn't somebody that's making a significant amount of money. 2 very average incomes for this household. And again, we're not going to factor no dependents in this one. So married, husband, wife, 100,000 total gross income.
So 50,000 each.
50,000 each. And so when we look at that, if I had to pick healthy, like I would love for someone to be, I would be excited. I think you could be excited if your savings rate was 50% of your gross income or less. So if your BR is 50% or lower, you should be really excited for how much you're going to grow your net worth in a short amount of time.
Very short amount of time.
If you 50%. Start getting from 50% into your burn rate going from 50% to maybe 65%, then you're probably getting in the realm of like a standard textbook answer of, you're saving 10 to 15%, you're paying your, 10-ish% in taxes, and you might have a mortgage payment at this point in time that you're paying your debt. You're paying down a little debt, saving 10 to 15%, and then you're paying your tax bill of probably around 10%, depending on what tax or what state you live in, for a total of about 100%. So my gross income's coming to me, 10% to taxes, 10 to 15-ish% getting saved, and then, making my mortgage payment that might represent 10%. That nets me around a 65%-ish burn rate, right? So you can still check all the boxes if your burn rate's around 65%. If you start, I'd say where I'd start getting worried if I'm looking at something, again, we're talking about somebody that's not at poverty level income.
Right.
If I start to see a burn rate 80% or more, I'm actually starting to probably be worried for them, and we're having some
alarms are going off at that point.
Very specific conversations about that burn rate. And the thing is too, so let's jump one step further and talk about somebody that's, this couple, something happened, a great job at, offer, and now the household's making $200K a year. Should my burn rate stay the same? Should it go up or should it go down? Well, here's the thing. If I'm paying 10% taxes at 100K, I might be paying 25% taxes at 200K, right? So if my burn rate was 65%, and now I went from 10%
to 25.
to
Where's that
25%
other
of my tax
15%
rate,
coming from?
I'm losing some percentage points here to play with. So a couple things. Typically, if I adjust into that, we call it lifestyle creep. If I adjust into that new lifestyle where 65% of 100K is 65 grand, but now all of a sudden I'm spending 130 grand. So my lifestyle's definitely jumped up.
Right.
Well, if my tax bill is now 25% instead of 10, and then my debt payment, my mortgage didn't change.
Right.
What typically gets pressed is the savings rate.
Mm-hmm.
So really what we want to see is as your income goes up, we want to see your burn rate percent creep down, right? Because that typically means you're being able to afford your new tax bracket and you're potentially increasing your savings.
You're either keeping it the same or increasing it.
And so, that's really important because, for the first couple pay raises, typically in life, we're kind of getting to a point where we're meeting our needs. And it's also really, really important once we adjust in. Like if I'm at 65% burn rate and I get a pay raise and now I'm at 50, I feel good. And maybe that 50 still should allow. If I'm making $100,000 a year and my burn rate is 65, I'm essentially spending 65 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I get a pay raise and now I'm making 200 grand a year and my burn rate goes down to 50%, I'm still going from an annual spend of 65K to 100K.
You just gave yourself a raise and you don't have to feel bad about it.
I'm still spending 35K more than I was before on lifestyle stuff, still making my debt payments, have more room to contribute to savings, and I'm paying my tax bill for I'm paying for my $200,000 income to the government, right? So all those things is like my burn rate went down. I'm spending more, but I'm doing it in a responsible manner because that's, and to your point, like I don't have to feel guilty about spending 35K more. So if it's, maybe that 35K is the new country club membership, or maybe it's, a myriad of other things. Maybe it's just
send your kid to private school or,
frequent steak dinners, whatever you want. You don't have to feel guilty about it because it's your money. You can enjoy life. The other pieces of the puzzle are cared for.
And in that situation, even if you want to say, all right, well, I'm going to take half of that and I'm going to put that into savings or a 529 for my child or whatever, you still have another, 12, 5, 15 grand.
You can increase your
or
savings.
17.5 to spend.
You can start, people want to contribute. People like to give money away to charities, things that they're passionate about. So there's a whole lot of options in there, but you don't have the confidence and you don't know the direction you have to go without understanding that financial vital sign, and then understanding how to view it as a tool to say, hey, for me right now, this is healthy. For me in the future, I need to get to here. So we'll do other calls. We'll, in all of our members inside of this planning atmosphere, ecosystem, they get the in-depth Zoom calls, where we'll also speak, about savings rate. What's a healthy savings rate? What's a healthy tax rate? How do I decrease my tax rate? Doesn't the government just tell me what I have to pay? We're going to dive into these calls, or into these topics, not all on today's call, but then you'll start to realize there's a balance. And so for me, my savings rate's a little bit lower right now because I got a kid at home and I've launched this business like just a year and a half ago. So for that reason, my savings rate's not quite as healthy as I want it to be. So I've set a trajectory to say, hey, Brandon, I am pledging to raise my savings rate by 1% every quarter. And so it's doable, it's accomplishable, it's measurable.
Which is so great because that goes right back into episode 1 talking about our sprints.
And again, I've created a sprint. And so if you haven't listened to episode 1, we like to create short sprints that are accomplishable as a means to get further down the road into creating a better financial picture, a healthier financial picture. That's what this is all about. And so
little lengthy episode, but
that one's a long one.
We're getting better.
Break it up. Yeah,
break it up.
Break up that episode. You can listen. You don't have to listen to it all at once. So burn rate as a tool, everybody wants to spend less. There's oftentimes some level of guilt when we spend things on something that we just want to, that we may not need. Nobody enjoys the B word, budget.
Yep.
Right? Nobody wants to sit down and be told how and where to spend their money. We've done that before. We've sat down with clients and been like, hey, open up your checking account.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, for me personally, I'd rather you ask to look in my underwear drawer
Right.
than for me to pull up my checking. I don't spend
show
money
you-
where I shouldn't,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that's just
It's a personal, private thing.
you're crossing a line
Yeah.
a little bit. Like that's getting into my personal space,
Right.
and it's not comfortable. Sometimes
You're
it's
not going to
necessary.
tell me I can't go buy the candy I like every single night. You know what I mean? Like,
your daily
when you see
quesadilla.
my gas station bill.
So and everyone has that. Nobody wants to go through that. So instead of getting super like dialed in on, hey, where'd you spend money last month? Like, or well, let's just look at the number.
Now
Let's
we're just
dive
concentrating
into the
on
number.
what is your burn rate? Are you above or below it? And then you can make the decision on how to make the adjustment.
Yeah, because we're creating, like, this is kind of a judgment free zone. We all spend money in places that we could probably do better at, right? Like we could probably
And we all feel guilty for
Yeah,
that.
I'm thinking of a couple like clients that I'm really connected to, and we talk a lot about like our spending, and we do stuff together. And it's like, man, I know he could contribute a lot more money to this account if he didn't have this
right.
hobby. And I'm thinking about me. Like I could, my savings rate probably could go up 1% really quick if I just stopped doing.
Didn't
this.
play golf.
But it's also important to me right now. And if you
Right.
criticize me for spending that, we're just not going to be friends.
Right, exactly.
We're not going to hang out. I'm not going to talk to you. So don't criticize the things I'm passionate about. So I think that's what we're trying to do by doing this way is say, once your burn rate's dialed in, I don't care if you're buying your candy every night,
Right.
or if you're buying, an extra glass of bourbon, or
Right.
or the premium glass of bourbon, or if you went from playing, 1 round of golf a month to 4 rounds of golf. Your burn rate is your burn rate,
Right.
And if it's healthy, and if it's healthy for you, then you're creating an atmosphere where your net worth will grow.
Yep.
And you're kind of you're bringing closer the date where work becomes optional.
Yep.
And so that's all it is. If I see a client that has an alarmingly high burn rate, the right way to approach that may not be saying, hey, your burn rate's high, we got to rein in your spending. It might be,
We might ask them.
hey, your burn rate, for a sake of trying to put together a savings plan, for sake of trying to get you to your retirement goals or work optional goals or growing your net worth, or however whatever the goal is, your burn rate's a little high. It's actually kind of alarmingly high. Mm-hmm. Are you okay delaying your goal? Are you okay pushing back retirement? For me, like, I love what I do.
Right.
I have a business. I'm okay. Like, for me, there's not a definitive retirement date in my
Right.
mind. There's this idea of my
the
future.
Work optional, which is a great trend that we've seen really start to pick up over the last couple of years, of the work optional trend instead of the retirement, the exact day retirement.
Sure. And I think that with that, there's just this notion that if I was in the client seat and somebody was like, Brandon, if you got your burn rate down just a little bit, this goal's realistic. But with your burn rate as high as it is, if they came at me and said, stop spending money, I'd probably leave and not sign any, I wouldn't be their client.
Or you
but if
just
they
say,
said, hey, would you be okay let's put this in realistic expectations. Your burn rate's a little high. It looks like you're enjoying some things that you're doing. Instead of 65 retirement, is 67 okay for you?
Yep.
Do you mind? Is it worth a couple years of your life at work to enjoy your spending behaviors and patterns now? Mm-hmm. And so we're framing the conversation. It's important to know the vital sign, because if I have an excess, if my burn rate is 80%, I am not retiring early. If my burn rate is
If at all.
35%, then I could potentially see an earlier work optional life. And so these are all the factors that come in, and it's just, at the end of the day, the takeaway needs to be, there is a place, I think, in our minds where we can get to say, I understand this, and I understand what's healthy and necessary for me. And based on that, and based on what I'm doing, I can feel confident. I don't have to feel guilt.
Yep.
I don't have to be anxious. I just understand. And guess what? I also now know that sometimes I need to say no to things. So, like, we're business owners. People are always saying, hey, you want to throw some money here? You want to do some, you want to participate? You want to volunteer? You want to donate some money?
But
we can say, hey, it's just not in my burn. Like, my burn rate's kind of where it's at. It's just not, it's not where it,
right.
I can't. I have the reason to say no. It would be detrimental to my health to say yes to you right now. And I'm not willing to be unhealthy just to say yes.
Yep.
So that's, like, burn rate is this kind of concept where, yes, there's ideal ranges, but ideal ranges vary from time to time, person to person, circumstance to circumstance. And so once you're enrolled in this financial health planning program that we have, that's where we can sit up there and have a one-on-one conversation. Be like, look, I totally understand your life circumstances right now. I totally understand that you're a single parent, one income, kids are expensive. So now's not the time to be worried or even thinking about 35% savings rate and 50% burn rate. Like, it's just not. Let's do this. How about we go from 100% burn rate to 97,
right,
by way of putting 3% in your 401k at work, if that was an option.
Right.
That's just a hypothetical example. But we can create these small goals, and, oh, by the way, one day your kid's going to grow up, get out of the house, and now we can turn it on to say, hey, now I need to get from 97 down to, 50. So that's kind of the nature of what burn rate is. Guys, if you're interested at all, if you're seeing this, and again, if you're not a client, if you are a client, this is something that we have for you.
Yep. Give us a call.
We can get it set up for you and turned on really quick. If you're if you're inside of our planning ecosystem and subscribed to the Vital Signs app, then definitely appreciate you. And if you're not, and you want to be a part of that Vital Sign planning and education ecosystem, shoot us your information. Just send us a quick email, or you can give us a call. We'll get you enrolled. It's something that we're just making accessible to as many people as possible, because we think that a couple things. One, education's important. Too many people are making finance extremely complex, and it's just this, like, something we'll never understand, and it's hard, and it makes me frustrated. And when we don't understand something, we don't know,
tend to back away from it.
We get anxious, we get angry, we get upset.
But
we
this
feel
is
like we're
so
failing.
easy.
And we're just
We're
designing
making
it.
it so simple,
12 vital signs,
and it's tangible.
You get a number. The number is either healthy or not healthy, and we show you ways to get healthy, or show you ways to stop being unhealthy. And then we help you, we coach you into implementing those new behaviors. So that's all it is. It's pretty simple. It's profound. So I think the right way to say that it is simply profound, but profoundly simple. Right?
I like it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
Put that on the website.
That's actually from my buddy Brady. That's what he told me.
I like it.
So, guys, thank you for your time. We hope you learned something. Understand, focusing on your vital signs creates this top of mind thought that, one, I understand it enough to be in charge of my finances. If I'm in charge of my finances, that right there can create some confidence. Anytime we start creating confidence in the brain, anxieties tend to come down.
Your success rate goes up.
Success rates. I mean, there's studies out there, studies after studies, saying that salience equals a greater likelihood of success than somebody that never thinks of it. So, and that's all we're doing, guys. We just want to create an ecosystem where success becomes more of a realistic option for people. And if you don't think about it, if you don't understand it, and you don't have anybody helping you, coaching you, or carrying you along, motivating you, the chances of you getting lucky in creating financial success is extremely rare. And it just doesn't happen. You got to work at it. And so that's what we're doing. We appreciate your time. Josh, closing words.
We will go through the next vital sign of the next podcast. Pretty excited about the next one.
Yeah.
We'll be learning a lot.
So make sure you guys are sharing this. We want everybody to be able to take this in. And please, we're always happy to speak or talk to anyone that you think would be a good fit for this. That means a lot to us. It shows that you have confidence in us as well. I think my parting thought would just be, in that burn rate, let's get to a place where we understand what we're spending, understand that we can't just, get a $100,000 a year paycheck and spend it, because there's other places that money's going. It's going onto the net worth statement, or it's getting spent into
the
ether. And we just need to understand how money flows to us and then through us into where we want it to go. We can be in control of it when we're in control of it. I don't feel anxious, and anytime I start to feel guilty for spending the money, if my spending behavior is healthy, I can laugh it off and say, "Hey, I'm not feeling guilty about this."
Yep.
And
my burn rate's good.
My burn rate's healthy, and I'm going to enjoy this.
Yep.
New pair of shoes, new insert product, because
insert product here. Yeah.
we do. We want you guys. It's important to enjoy life. We got to plan ahead. We got to think about our future. We need to save for our future self, but we also need to enjoy the moments and times we have now with friends, with families, and with ourselves, because we're not promised tomorrow. And so with that, we are here for your questions. Reach out to us anytime. And until next time, enjoy your day. We hope you learned from our conversation today. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes and not intended to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions of how it might be applicable to your specific situation, please reach out to your financial professional. Of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you regarding specific questions or applications to your individual financial situation. With that, here are a few disclosures. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. With that, thank you, and we look forward to having you back. Take care.